Hello everyone, welcome back to another Game of Thrones and a Song of Ice and Fire video. In this video, I will be narrating the history of the Children of the Forest and the dreadful events that exterminated their very existence, according to George R.R. Martin's book, The World of Ice and Fire. In the beginning of the Dawn Age, Westeros was a vast, unbroken continent of primeval forests, where the weirwood trees with their blood-red leaves and solemn white faces grew in endless groves. This was the world of the Children of the Forest, a race who called themselves those who sing the song of earth in their true tongue. For untold thousands of years they were the soul of this unspoiled land, living in a delicate balance with the giants whom they knew and the other ancient races of the world. Their existence was one with the nature they revered. They did not build cities of stone or wield metal. Their homes were hidden tree villages, secret crannogs, and vast, sun-dappled caves. They wore leg bindings of bark and cloaks of leaves, and their hunters, the wood dancers, moved with a quiet swiftness through the forests, hunting with weirwood bows and obsidian blades. They had no books, no parchment, and no written language. Their history, their laws, and their songs were carried in their memories and spoken in a language so beautiful it could bring tears to the eyes of any who heard it. Their lives were long, stretching for centuries, and their connection to the land was profound and magical. They carved the faces on the weirwoods to watch over the woods, believing the trees were gods and that they would join them in death. This age of innocence and isolation was not to last. A change was coming from the east, a change that would shatter the tranquility of the Dawn Age and set the children on a path of endless struggle. From the eastern continent of Essos, a new people came, crossing the land bridge known as the Arm of Dawn. They were the first men, and they brought with them bronze swords and shields, horses, and a fierce determination to claim this new land for their own. At first, the children watched the newcomers with a cautious curiosity. But this initial welcome soon curdled into fear and anger. The first men did not hear the song of the earth. Where the children saw sacred groves, the newcomers saw timber for their holdfasts and fields. They began to cut down the forests, and most horrifying of all, they used their bronze axes to hew down the face-carved weirwoods, fearing the children used them for spying. This desecration could not be borne, and that made the children declare war. What followed was a desperate centuries-long conflict that painted the earth red with the blood of both races. The children, though smaller and armed with stone and obsidian, fought with the fury of the wilderness itself. Their wood dancers struck from the shadows, their obsidian daggers finding their mark. Their greenseers, the rare children chosen by the gods with mossy green or blood-red eyes, wielded powerful magic. They were said to have turned trees into warriors and called upon the beasts of the wood, cave lions, dire wolves, and great snow bears to fight on their behalf. Yet the first men were larger, stronger, and relentless. Legends tell of Brandon of the Bloody Blade, slaying countless children at a place that would forever be known as Red Lake. Seeing their lands being steadily overrun and their sacred trees destroyed, the children turned to a desperate, world-altering sorcery. The greenseers gathered, some say at Moat Kyling, others at the Isle of Faces, and called down the hammer of the waters. With a magic that shook the foundations of the world, they shattered the Arm of Dawn, breaking the land bridge and hoping to stem the tide of invaders. In a second, futile attempt, they tried to bring the hammer down upon the neck to split the north from the south, but succeeded only in flooding the area and creating the vast swamps that exist there today. It was too late, and thousands of first men were already in Westeros. Their women bore children far more quickly than the females of the elder races. The balance of power had irrevocably shifted. After generations of warfare, both sides were exhausted. They fought to a standstill and agreed to a truce. On the Isle of Faces in the God's Eye Lake, the leaders of both races met and signed the Pact, granting the open lands to humanity and the forests to the children. To seal the peace, the children carved faces on every weirwood on the isle, and the first men laid down their weapons of bronze and adopted the worship of the old gods. With that pact, the Dawn Age ended, and the Age of Heroes began. For 4,000 years, the Pact held. The children and the first men coexisted in a fragile peace. The children taught the first men the ways of the old gods, and a respect for the weirwoods and the sacred forests took root among many of the human houses, particularly those who had become the Starks of Winterfell. During this time, it is said the children aided Bran the Builder in raising the great fortress of Storm's End, weaving their magic into its very walls. This golden age of cooperation was shattered by a threat from the farthest north. From the lands of always winter, a new enemy emerged, the others known in legend as White Walkers. An endless winter descended upon the world, a darkness that lasted a generation which the legends called the Long Night. The White Walkers brought death and destruction to both children and first men alike, raising the slain as whites to swell their armies. Faced with annihilation, the old enemies became steadfast allies. The children joined with the first men, led by the legendary figure known as the Last Hero, to fight for the Dawn. In the epic battle for the Dawn, the forces of life rallied. The children fought with their obsidian weapons, which they called Frozen Fire, and which proved lethally effective against the whites. Together, they pushed the terrifying threat back into the frozen wastes. In the aftermath, to ensure such a terror could never threaten the realms of men again, Bran the Builder enlisted the aid of the children and the giants to raise the wall, a colossal barrier of ice and magic stretching from one coast to the other. The children, much diminished in number from the war, gave the newly formed Night's Watch 100 obsidian daggers every year as a gift and a reminder of the common enemy that lurked in the north. As the years turned into centuries, the children began their slow withdrawal from the lands of men, retreating deeper into the remaining forests and most notably beyond the wall, where the influence of humanity was weakest. The peace between the elder races and humanity was shattered a second time with the coming of the Andals from across the narrow sea 6,000 years ago. Armed with iron steel and zealous in their faith of the Seven, the Andals were a new kind of invaders. They saw the worship of the old gods as heresy and the children themselves as abominations. They resumed the cutting and burning of the Weirwood groves with a fervor that eclipsed even the first men. The children, their numbers already a fraction of what they once were, fought back as best they could. Stories tell of them sending great wolf packs against the Andals in the White Wood and forming a Weirwood alliance with the Storm King, Duran, but it was a hopeless fight. The most poignant symbol of this final tragedy occurred at a place the children held most sacred, a great hill now known as High Heart. There, the Andal King Ereg the Kinslayer cut down the children's grove of 31 weirwoods. The hill is said to be haunted by the ghosts of the children who died there, their magic lingering in the soil. One by one, their last refuges in the south were destroyed. Some may have hidden on the Isle of Faces or in the bogs of the Neck, but most who survived fled north beyond the wall, where the Andals would not follow. The realms of men grew, and the memory of the children faded into legend and myth until the maesters of the citadel came to believe they were nothing but a story. For thousands of years, the world believed the children were gone, but in the vast, cold lands beyond the wall, a tiny remnant endured. Hidden in a magical, warded cave system deep beneath a hollow hill, a last community of the children lived on, guarding the last Greenseer. Their existence remained a secret until a broken boy named Bran Stark arrived, guided by his dreams of a three-eyed crow. At the entrance to the cave, Bran and his companions were attacked by the whites of the others. Just as all seemed lost, a small figure emerged from the darkness. She appeared to be a young girl whose skin was dappled like a deer's, and she wore a cloak of woven leaves. Her name was Leaf. With powerful magic, she saved Bran and led his company deep into the earth, into the cavern that was her people's final sanctuary. There, Bran discovered more than 70 of the children living among the bones of thousands of their dead. The air was filled with the sound of their sad songs, sung in the true tongue, a language Bran could not understand, but found as pure as winter air. He and Mira Reed gave them names like Ash, Coals, and Snowy Locks. Leaf was the only one who spoke the common tongue of men, which she had learned during her 200-year walk in the world of men, having been born in the time of the dragon. Deeper in the cave, bound to the roots of a great weirwood, Bran found the three-eyed crow, the last Greenseer, Lord Brynden Rivers, also known as Bloodraven. It was here that Bran began his training to become a Greenseer himself, learning to see through the eyes of the weirwoods and skin change into other creatures. It was also here that he learned the children's darkest secret. In a vision, he witnessed that long ago, in the midst of their war against the First Men, the children had captured a man and, in a desperate act of creation, thrust a dragon-glass dagger into his heart and creating the first White Walker, the Night King. A weapon meant to protect them from men had become the very thing that now threatened all of creation. This sanctuary was not to last, and Bran's own actions drew the attention of the Night King, who laid siege to the cave. The children fought valiantly with their elemental magic and obsidian weapons, but they were no match for the endless tide of whites. In a final heroic act to cover Bran and Mira's escape, Leaf sacrificed herself, allowing the whites to envelop her as she detonated a powerful explosive, destroying the last known holdout of her people and burying the whites, Bloodraven, and the last of the children in a tomb of stone and ice. With the death of Leaf and her kin in the cave, the children of the forest passed from the world of the living, their long, sorrowful journey at an end. Their legacy, however, is woven indelibly into the fabric of Westeros. The Northmen and the free folk beyond the wall still worship the old gods, their prayers whispered before the heart trees whose faces the children carved. The wall itself, that great feat of magic and masonry, stands in part as a monument to their ancient pact with humanity. They were a people of song and earth, of magic and mystery, who lived in harmony with their world for millennia. They witnessed the rise of man, fought terrible wars against them, and ultimately forged a fragile peace, only to be driven to the brink of extinction. Kindly like and subscribe to this channel for more exclusive videos. Thanks for watching and see you soon.